Water everywhere, there's water, but not a drop to drink. How would you like to be in that position? 1974 movie Heat Wave. Did you see it? It was one of the movies of the week. Heat Wave. Temperatures, small town, pregnant lady. All of the 70s characters and characteristics of a 1970s movie of the week. It was a great movie. Happened to see it last weekend briefly. Water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. You want to know what life would be like without being able to drink water? No, I don't think you do. What do you do in a situation like that? Well,
you wouldn't last a week, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. So, here's what we have: Hagman College of Knowledge coming up right now with a good friend, American Survival Wholesale's own Chance. Of course, this portion brought to you by American Survival Wholesale. Joe?
Chance, welcome back to the Hagman and Hagman Report. You've been on a lot recently talking about different ways to prepare for different materials and situations. And today we're going to talk about water. What do you got for us tonight?
Thank you so much for having me on. Tonight's discussion will probably be the most important discussion we're going to have in training up to this point besides spiritual preparation. So we're going to talk about water. We're going to talk about how to store it, how to filter it, how much you need, and some recommendations based upon our research. Folks, write these methods down. They can absolutely save your life. Guys, I speak with preppers all the time. They love to talk about their new ARs and their new AKs and enough ammo to last through several small wars. But when we talk about water, they say something like, well, we've got some water stored, some bottled water downstairs. Guys, folks, of course, number one is spiritual preparation. But number two, definitely, you need to have enough properly filtered and properly stored water for every person in the household. Our suggestion, 200 gallons of water per person per month, also stored in BPA-free containers. Never, ever store bottled water you bought from the store over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The plastic molecules will leach right into the water and can cause liver and kidney damage. It's best to store water at normal room temperatures around 70 to 75 degrees and definitely not in direct sunlight. Water filtration, I want to talk about that. Let's get into this. Not all water is created equal. Even some water municipalities have failed, as you know, to provide clean, safe drinking water. So, who are some of the best water filtration companies out there? One you just heard about, the Berkey system. When we did check this in third-party tests, Big Berkey system, which has the charcoal and the fluoride filter, scored 100% in removing heavy metals, bacteria, aluminum, and other harmful chemicals. We specialize in portable water filtration systems, and if you keep tuning in at the end of this program, we're going to be giving them away. Let's talk about now space. Many fellow preppers have the same issue. They just don't have room in their small apartments, RVs, houses, etc. to store water. So here's a few solutions. We carry a 5-gallon collapsible BPA-free 5-gallon water container that includes a spigot. They store almost completely flat until ready for use. Once they are filled, they weigh only about 40 pounds. And the best thing is they can be carried to each room in the house, including the bathroom, where they can be filled easily before an emergency. Another option is our 5-year emergency water pouches. They weigh less than a pound, and because they're packaged in Mylar pouches, they can withstand higher temperatures. Plus, folks, they're about 50 cents each. You can carry them in your vehicle in case of a breakdown, easily storable in a backpack, very, very portable. Also, take a look at our tub bladders. You can store over 30 gallons of water in a BPA-free container in your bathtub. That's under $35. So what happens when there's no water available from your tap and your water storage is inadequate? Your first priority, and pay attention here, in this case, is to locate a water source close to your home. For example, many towns you're going to find decorative fountains. You'll find water there. Maybe you'll have a stream or a creek, a lake or a river. In any case, tomorrow, the next day, take a drive, locate these sources, and have a plan. Don't take any chances, no pun intended, of these sources being a viable option for drinking water. Always filter it first for cooking and cleaning. At the minimum, bring the water to a boil, a hard boil, for about 3 minutes. Even cleaning with tainted water can leave bacteria behind and cause sickness. I'm going to share a story with you guys, but first I'm going to give you some facts. As many as 19 million Americans became ill each year due to parasites, viruses, and bacteria in their drinking water. In New Jersey alone, they have detected high concentrations of arsenic and a chemical used in dry cleaning called tetrachloroethylene, which has been linked to certain cancers. In New York, Doug and Joe, your old stomping ground, over 200 water systems in different communities have illegal amounts of bacteria in their drinking water. Even Lake Erie reports of toxic algae blooms.
Yep.
Guys, this is no joke.
Chance,
This is no joke. Go ahead, Joe.
it's summer here in Erie, and we have the peninsula, and it is it separates the bay from the lake, and it's just full of beaches, and it's full of tourists and residents in the summertime. And as you get to the peninsula, they have these, digital signs up that tell you the toxicity level, or if it's too toxic to go swimming. And I'll tell you, half the days, at least that I've been down there, it says, beach 6 or beach 7 closed due to algae. So yeah, and E. coli. There are, it's pretty bad. As you said, the algae blooms, it is pretty bad. I mean, when I'm, I don't want to go swimming in the lake because I'm afraid of some, brain eating or flesh eating bacteria. And half the time there's those alerts anyways. It's troubling and worrisome.
Again, you're right, and that leads to this story. This is probably the most important discussion we're going to have. I'm going to tell you about a story about the Walters in Flint, Michigan. Some of you might be familiar with this. Gavin started breaking out every time he'd get in the pool, says Walters. The rash was bad enough that the Walters took him to the doctor. And the doctors kept telling us it was contact dermatitis. He's coming into contact with something that he's allergic to. Later, Walter says her doctor suggested it was eczema. They gave her cortisone cream to rub on Gavin's rash, but by July 2014, it wasn't just Gavin. His twin brother Garrett got the rash too. We took them in and they told us it was scabies. So we treated them with a pesticide, says Walters. Tiny mites cause scabies, and the common treatment is a chemical that's also in some pesticides. It's even in some mosquito nets and flea collars. The rash on 4-year-old Gavin Walters' foot, Walters rubbed the prescription cream on her twin boys from the neck down. I spent a ton of money because all the laundry that we had, all the bedding that we had, we took it to the laundromat. She says, Walter was relieved when the boy's rash went away, but that feeling didn't last long. She remembers the day the rash came back because she had a bunch of people over to celebrate her daughter's high school graduation. All the people that were here swimming and drinking the water, all of them broke out. And all the people that were here swimming and drinking the water, she said, got sick. She scheduled another doctor's appointment for her 4-year-old. She got the same diagnosis. But Walters really had some doubts about the scabies diagnosis, especially after the party. The third time she tried to convince us that it was scabies, I said, no. The cream wasn't working, and he had that rash for more than a month straight. Walters wasn't standing for it anymore, so she took Gavin to a dermatologist in downtown in Brighton. They scraped in between his little toes, put it under the microscope, and verified that the scrapes, there was no scabies. There was no live anything, no dead anything, no eggs, no scabies. She still didn't know what caused the rash, but Walters noticed something. Gavin's rash flared up every time he swam in the pool, and every time he took a bath. Something clicked. It became clear to her right then that Gavin's rash was caused by something in the tap water. In December of 2014, the Walters family stopped drinking Flint tap water. They contacted the city. The city sent out the utilities administrator out to her home, and she pointed out to them that the water was orange. He had their water tested. He was also the person who notified her that the lead levels were sky high. She took the twins to the doctor and found out that water had given both of those boys lead poisoning. That story, guys, is just one example of many facing our cities and towns across America. This is the time to take action. So I want folks to heed the advice we've given you so far. Take a look at also reverse osmosis and home distillers. For folks who live in rural areas, think about setting up a rain catchment system. Check your local laws, of course, before doing that. Also, test your well water for any dangerous contaminants. You can buy tests at Amazon.com, which will detect any bacteria and some contaminants in your water. So here's what American Survival Wholesale is going to do to get you started. Between right now, and Sunday at midnight, we are going to give away a free water filtration bottle. This bottle will filter out 100 gallons of water. You can drink as it filters. It's very portable. I would suggest that you have one for your home and one for your car. We'll be giving this away with any order over $75. All I ask is that you call us or email us directly, as we have to place a special code into the system in order to make that happen. So our email is bugoutamerica@usa.com. Again, that's bugoutamerica@usa.com. Or if you'd like to give us a call, you can reach us at 818-720-0759. Do this today, folks. This is too important. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, Chance. That was good. Look, water, single most important prep item.
Yep.
Then, and that's right. I mean,
water, food, shelter.
Spiritual preps, physical preps, but among the physical preps, water, food, shelter, ammo, guns, and people of like mind as allies, friends.
Amen.
Chance from American Survival Wholesale, AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com. College of Knowledge, Session 2, I believe. Thank you.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.
All right, brother.
Take care.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Look. It does no good for us to sit here and to talk to everyone about, the world events and what's taking place if we're not prepared to act upon what we believe in. And we, folks, we are prepared to act. We are acting on what we believe in. And, of course, we've got the spiritual side of things and the physical side of things. But the spiritual side, exponentially more important, vastly more important than the physical. However, we cannot resign from the physical and expect to be taken care of. That's my belief. Now, you might have different beliefs. That's up to you. If you have different beliefs, that's up to you. But I do suggest that everyone gets prepared and gets prepared now. Don't wait. I remember Hurricane Sandy, I think it was, coming up the East Coast not too long ago, a couple of years ago. And I remember walking into, as a matter of fact, I still have the image. I think I'll put it up maybe later tonight, walking into one of the grocery stores and seeing an entire shelf where the bottled water was completely empty.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I also went to Home Depot and went to like 3 different locations: Home Depot, Lowe's, and I believe a True Value kind of local, if you will, locally owned hardware store. And I just happened to ask, do you have generators? No, we're all sold out of generators. We'd have to order generators in from the West Coast. Really? In fact, you couldn't find a generator. And bottled water, no, not around. And we are far enough west. We are far enough west of the East Coast, where it shouldn't have mattered. So if you take that and apply that to what was going on the East Coast in the run up toward that hurricane, you can see how quickly supplies will dwindle. And and I spoke to someone, and Joe, I think you can back me up on this. I spoke to someone in the retail industry, or in the supermarket, actually a manager of one of the larger supermarket chains. Look, folks, they don't have a lot of stock in their back room. I mean, what they have is limited, and what they can get is limited. So, you know how we used to say they have a 3-day supply? I think that's drastically has been drastically reduced, at least on the with respect to the most recent reports that I've been getting. Now, it was interesting that he did say something, and I don't know if you caught this: bottled water that exceeded 80 degrees Fahrenheit temperature in storage, don't drink it. How, folks? How are you able to tell? How would you be able to tell if that water was being transported on a truck, non-refrigerated truck, or no reefer on it? How would you be able to tell, for example, if the interior temperature of the water exceeded 80 degrees because of the leaching of the toxins? I don't think you can. So I think we're largely dependent upon our own efforts here and there where you are to prepare for what is coming. And folks, preparation is so important. And I'm really drawing a line in the sand. And I remember a couple of years ago being taken to task by, I wrote an article that we must choose, make a choice. And I remember this vividly. The article itself, not so much, but it was to the extent that we must make a choice right now of what we're going to do. And I remember this other talk show host just berating me, just absolutely berating me for saying how dare I write this and not have faith in God above. Well, neither are mutually exclusive. So I'm drawing the line in the sand right now, and I think, look, folks, I'm coming out of the gate, and I'm sounding the alarm bells, and I'm telling you right now, the time is exceedingly short. We are right now entering a time period like no other, and according to my most recent contact and information from my DHS source, yes, again, my DHS source, who was accurate in terms of content back in 2012. The source referenced by the pseudonym Rosebud. Do you remember those articles that I wrote? Remember those reports?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
DHS Insider.
That's right. Glenn Beck actually read the entire, when he was doing his program, he read the entire DHS Insider. It's about to get really ugly. Let me tell you something. He told me at that time, and I'm going to tell you this now. The objectives don't change. The plans, the methods, they do. So the timing might be off, but look. So apparently Obama had a lock on the re-election. Apparently the fix was in. And they didn't need to pull out the stops that they didn't need to pull the trigger on the things that they were planning on doing to ensure Obama's second term. But Judy McLeod talks about Obama's third term now. And that's not a physical placement of Obama in the Oval Office, although at this point, who knows? Or in the words of Hillary Diane Rodham, the witch Clinton, what difference does it make? Folks, Obama's third term could very well be in the form, presence, and style of Hillary Rodham Clinton. And if you don't believe me, just ask Obama, just ask Hillary. Look at how they just look at how they rigged the election, rigged the delegates. Some say, well, no, it wasn't really rigging. It was just knowing how to capture the super delegates and delegates in favor of Hillary, Diane Rodham, the witch Clinton. But have you noticed, did you notice, of course, how the media, the 6 corporate media outlets, how they refused to show the demonstrations, the protests, the riots, the shouts of liars, or shouts of liar to Clinton? I guess that wasn't enough to keep old William Jefferson Clinton awake, however, for the speech, but during his wife's speech. But nonetheless, the network censored all of the opposition. We're definitely living in an Orwellian society.
Yes, we are.
So,
I mean, that's just an understatement. You see
yeah.
that, one of the interesting headlines out from the last week, 2 weeks, that was the media spent more time covering Trump's wife, a photo of Trump's wife, than they did the email scandal.
Yes.
I mean, we have in a number of stories today, this con guy.
Yeah. Oh.
And we can save this till in the second hour.
Oh boy. I'm twitching.
But I mean, Trump is being dragged through the mud on every network, including Fox News. There's new deceiving poll numbers out saying that Hillary Clinton now has a 10-point lead, I believe. And you look, and we showed pictures of this yesterday, of the crowds. Now, Donald Trump's down in Daytona, Florida right now, and he had about a 20,000 person strong appearance there.
Yes.
Hillary Clinton was in Omaha with like 200 people, and then in Johnstown, PA,
she couldn't, as you said yesterday,
she couldn't even fill up the folding chairs in the front 10 rows. There were only 10 rows.
Eva Perón, shades of Eva Perón. This is exactly what it is, folks.
And it is just constant manipulation. Trump is getting so much. Hillary Clinton now is calling for a tax increase on the middle class, and all 10 people at her event, cheered her. Trump, on the other hand, is, he's not the smoothest and politician, and people aren't comfortable with him, at least on some in his own party and many on the other side. But he's saying things that do make sense, that are things that we need to consider. There is a Hillary presidency versus a Trump presidency. We know what we're going to get with Hillary Clinton. Now with Trump, it could be 100% worse, or it can be 100% better. But there's a chance that it will be better. Now, will it save anything? Will it make any difference in the end run? I don't know.
No, change has got to come from within us. Yeah. The people at the bottom, us little people, not the globalists. We have to make the change, and it's got to be us that makes the change, because the change doesn't come from the top down. It comes from the bottom up, and change does not come from the change of policies. It comes from the change of spiritual wholeness and purity, and the strive to be pure. Change comes from reassessing and fixing and stopping this wanton slaughter of unborns and this bull crap, this saying that homosexual marriage is the law of the land. What a bunch of horsehooey! It's not. It is not. Any law, there is no law that can exist that is antithetical to God's law and the Constitution, as Greg Jackson likes to say. And then you've got, and Joe, about Trump, I want to just warn people, the stage is being set. Did you see this? ABC News is reporting, hey, wait.
Trump's going to drop out?
Well, yeah, what happens if Trump drops out?
Okay, he's not going to drop out. There is something coming down the pipe.
Something.
And it doesn't have anything to do with Trump. I think it has to do with Hillary. There was a second seizure-like moment.
Yeah, I saw that. It was the Linda Blair moment.
I got to watch it because I saw the first one. I saw the headline about the second one. It was a 17-minute YouTube, and I didn't have the time before the show. But she's like, and that's a bad impression of it. It's much worse, much more jerky.
Yes.
But it's just unreal. Now, as I said about Hillary Clinton wanting to raise the taxes for the middle class, this was on Monday when she was in Omaha. And Eric, if you can show the picture from my computer that's up right now, new rally photos emerge, and it's startling, or it's starting to become really embarrassing for Hillary.
All right.
Now the media shows it
Joe,
a certain way.
We got to stop here because we're entering into entering into this break, folks. In case you haven't noticed, we're just really quickly. I don't mean to overtalk you, but we are getting into we're changing our format a tad. But that's an important depiction.
Well, it's not up there yet.
Oh, okay. I can't see that, but that's a very important depiction. Folks, I want to thank each and every one of you. We want to thank you for sticking with us. The Hagmann and Hagmann Report, brand new, invigorated, ready to fight. Saddle for battle because the battle is coming to you. You don't have to go to the battle. It is coming to each one of us. It is both spiritual and physical in nature.
Yes, it is.
We will. We are on the side of good, and I truly believe that it's going to get bumpy, obviously. But we know in the end who wins. And thank God. Stay with us.
Hello everyone, this is Joe Charles for American Survival Wholesale's annual Summer Sizzle Sale, going on right now. With prices so low, you will be amazed. Take advantage of these savings on tents, sleeping bags, camping cookware, utensils, canopies, solar showers, hammocks, and so much more. All things summer related are drastically reduced. Just type Summer Sizzle on the search bar at the top right side of AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com and be surprised at the savings. The good folks at ASW are making this possible to accommodate everyone to ensure your wellness in these uncertain times that we are facing. ASW Summer Sizzle Sale won't last long, so the time is right now to stock up on these great products. You will be glad that you made American Survival Wholesale your choice for incredible savings while there is still time to spend a day at the beach. That's AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com, the only wise choice for all of your survival needs.
Reporting on what the mainstream media won't, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on the Global Star Radio Network. Exposing the New World Order, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on the Global Star Radio Network. Stand by. Doug and Joe will be back shortly.
The future of globalism. Where it came from, where is it in our society today, and where is this agenda taking us? Interesting op-ed from the Japan Times. The future of globalism stands at a crossroads. There are mounting developments in world affairs that threaten to disrupt the progress of globalism. And it gets into the laundry list of issues that they are having. Destroying national sovereignty from America to Russia. But there's more behind the story.
You know, a big part of the exposure of globalism, Joe, are the emails that are being touted. The emails from Hillary Diane Rodham, the witch Clinton's private server. Paula M. sent an email earlier today. Very, very important email. And she writes this, you know, with Hillary exclusively using her private services, it goes without saying in an investigation that she sent classified material via email, whether she took that label off or not. If she didn't send classified material, then obviously she didn't do her job. Why hasn't this point been made? And the reason the point hasn't been made is because the captured corporate Illuminati-controlled mass media wants to make sure the globalists prevail in this election. The corporate media, Joe and Paula and folks, they are involved in obfuscation of the facts, of course, the corporate media, that is. And, you know, it's a question of are we paying attention? Who's paying attention? And you know what, folks? We together, Joe and I, before the show, we were talking about how difficult it must be, and is, because it's difficult for us to talk to, convince, and otherwise educate, inform people who don't want to hear the truth. And sometimes, well, Maria Canise, author of Prepare for Persecution, sent some just wonderful emails with a lot of information and talking about that strong delusion. Joe, what do you think? I mean, as we see people out there and we talk to people about events, current events, everyone seems to be under this strong delusion. And I do think this strong delusion has gripped many people in America, in the West, and the people that are pushing for the globalist agenda, the people who want to eradicate any form of nationalism and pride in both our nation and our culture and our heritage. They are responsible. Well, as Judy McLeod said from Canada Free Press, and folks, if you missed the beginning of the program, we were talking about Judy McLeod, Canada Free Press. If you go to HagmannReport.com, it's featured right there. Best words to describe our times: go away, Satan. The globalism is Satan's modus operandi, isn't it?
Well, it is back to the Tower of Babel.
Yes.
It is back to the one world system of religion that has man and Satan at the top.
Yes.
Where God should be. And interestingly enough, I learned a lot about the Russia and Crimea today, listening to a speech or an interview that Putin gave, and how he and Russia really are fighting this globalist takeover. And I guess in a way in a perspective that I have not looked at it before, is NATO. But when we read in the Bible, we read about an alliance of nations coming together, and that eventually all of them will go against Israel. NATO is the biggest alliance of nations there is, with the strongest nations on the planet, aside from a few. And what happened in Crimea, if you go back and do the research, was funded by Soros at the grassroots. And what Putin says is that it was a United States effort to remove the sovereignty of Crimea from Crimea and Russia in order to install the North American, to install NATO,
right?
Crimea as a NATO member. Now, as he got into this, he was talking about, nationalism versus the UN Charter of surrendering sovereignty over to an international body.
Which has been the goal since the League of Nations. Well, it's been the
And you
goal
don't
since
hear
Babylon.
these things in the
but,
news about, the Russia-Crimea conflict and the Putin versus the West conflict.
Right.
This stuff's left out of the news completely. But today, in that interview, it's about a 30-minute interview. I'm sure people can find it on YouTube. It's Putin talks about the New World Order.
Right.
He talked a lot about the sovereignty and why he did what he did and how he does not want to see the return of the Soviet Union as many in the West say he does. And he's not trying to, take over the government and people of Crimea. They actually held a vote where they voted to stay with the Russian Federation rather than be annexed.
But wasn't that vote depicted as being...
It was depicted as being...
manipulated.
It was depicted as being manipulated, and I haven't seen proof one way or the other. But when I listened and watched Putin's interview today, and then they contrasted it by showing Obama's in a Charlie Rose interview about Putin, I trusted Putin a lot more than I did Obama.
Well,
and
yeah,
it's not that
sadly.
I care, one way or the other about Putin or Obama. I have no. What do they say? You got no person in the fight.
No dog in this race,
Right.
right?
But I would urge everybody to take a look and watch it, even the first half of that interview. It will give you a great understanding of exactly what's really going on in the world. We hear these talks at the South China Sea and the conflicts that could arise there, the stuff about Russia, the Iran, North Korea. Those seem to be the four big ones where anytime conflict amongst these nations is brought up, you hear talk of World War III.
That's
right.
right.
These are the holdouts to the international order that has encompassed almost all the nations on this planet, at least all the developed nations.
That's a good point.
So when we look and we see these stories about how terrible Iran is, and about how vicious China is, and how they're warmongering and taking bold steps to show the U.S. that they're ready, for battle. I don't know if you've seen the headlines at least once or twice a week now, even on Drudge Report and other forums and websites. You see, China gearing up for war simulation, or Russia, biggest military drill in history, preparing for World War III.
Yep.
You see these rumors of war stories. And that ties into Matthew 24 about, in the end times.
Is this not but in addition, is this not a message via Tavistock, that programming mind condition? Okay.
That's part of it, absolutely. And as we talked about the book, The Reappearance of the Christ, it talks about how in the Bible, the Antichrist is what in the reappearance of the Christ, he is the Messiah, the Antichrist.
When you say the Christ, that's a title, of course.
Yeah, the reappearance of the Christ is the title. And it talks about in the book how the Antichrist, or the Christ, as they say, will come into a world that is already a one world system. I mean, they're sure of it in their writings because they mention it just about on half of the 74-page book that it is. So that begs a question. What is this new world order, one world government system going to look like? Who's going to be in control of it? It's going to be a one world political system, one world economic system, one world religious system, one world military system. And when we see that, as we've been talking about on the show 5 years ago, if you said New World Order was coming and globalism was coming, you were marginalized, you were called names, you were, laughed at. And today, without any real, segue, they are just saying basically, Trump is a nationalist. He will get in the way of globalism.
Isn't that interesting? When folks, when it was the last time you heard in the domestic political arena someone described as a nationalist? When's the last time in any election cycle? And all of a sudden now these words are such as nationalism, are starting to make their way into the public lexicon. Very interesting observation.
Yeah. And, what's happening with Turkey, what's happening with the facelift and reorganization in the Middle East, even Japan
Mm-hmm.
is becoming more authoritarian, as reports have come out that in Japan, where is it here? I hate when these update pop-ups come. Japanese government shifts further toward authoritarianism and militarism. And it goes on to say that one of the most discomforting aspects of Neil Howe and William Stratus' seminal work on generational cycles, The Fourth Turning, 1997, the fact is that, as far as American history is concerned, they all climax and end with massive wars.
Yes.
To be more specific, the first fourth turning in American history culminated with the Revolutionary War, the second with the Civil War. The third ended with the bloodiest war in world history, World War II. The number of years between the end of the Revolutionary War and the start of the Civil War was 78 years. The number of years between the Civil War and the start of World War II was 74 years. Therefore, if Howe and Stratus' theories hold water, and I think it does, the article says, we're due for a major conflict somewhere around 75 years from the end of World War II, which brings us to 2020. And the article goes on.
Isn't that interesting? The date 2020. It all seems to be culminating in the late or the mid to late teens and
you look
up
at
through 2020.
Yeah, and you look at the culture now. You look at the Albert Pike Musini letter,
Right.
that talked about the 3 world wars.
Yep.
I mean, everything that was written in that letter, especially about the Third World War, that groundwork has already been laid.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes.
There is little left to do. One Gulf of Tonkin incident, one false flag. Could be a biological threat. It could be an economic collapse. It's going to take one event, and the whole world could be in a nuclear war within minutes, and it will be the last world war until all the nations come against Israel. But
Very,
that's
very
where we're
good
going,
point.
and this is where we are. We're going to war.
We are indeed. Because, and remember,
And that's history repeating itself.
There you go. And remember, prior to 2000 or the attacks of 9/11, how many things were covered up by 9/11? I want to get into one thing really quickly. Let's take a closer look at this point of something.
You need a monocle.
How many people know the name? How many people know the name Seth Conrad Rich?
No, never heard of it.
Never heard of him. Well, now this is something, we're going to take a closer look at this, and we are taking a closer look at this, but not like the drive-by, fly-by media does. No. We are taking a closer look at the murder of Seth Conrad Rich. Now, for those of you who don't know who this gentleman was, Seth Conrad Rich was gunned down outside of his Washington, D.C. home a few weeks ago. This has been reported on by several outlets. The circumstances around his murder have been suspicious from the beginning. Rich was killed in the wee hours of the morning, somewhere around 4 o'clock in the morning, which is my lunchtime. Now, the time of death, the time of his killing, of course, is suspicious by itself, and new details from One American News are fueling suspicion that he was perhaps murdered. Wait for it. He was perhaps murdered to cover up the long trail of corruption within the Democratic Party. Now, apparently police thought that the murder of Seth Conrad Rich was a robbery gone awry, a robbery gone wrong. But when they didn't find anything missing from his body, the theory was soon abandoned for, well, maybe we should look at some other motive. Coincidentally, and much to the consternation of websites like Snopes or the Soros-led websites, much to their consternation, we're trying hard to fight this through misinformation and deliberate obfuscation. Rich was investigating numerous cases involving the Democratic National Committee and election fraud, electoral fraud, and was set to testify against Hillary Rodham, Diane Rodham, the witch Clinton, in the email investigation. Now, you will find on various news sources saying, oh, that's not true. That's not true. That's just, no. Oh, but it is. And this brings back memories of Vince Foster. There are those people out there who say, oh, Vince Foster committed suicide. At most, his body was moved. No, Vince Foster, in my personal and professional opinion, was murdered. And those who say anything to the contrary, I believe, and it's my professional opinion and opinion only, are disinformation agents working on behalf of the Clintonistas. But back to Seth Conrad Rich in this closer look segment. Rich was also joined by former UN President John Ash, who coincidentally was also set to testify in yet another high-profile case involving a major Clinton donor and Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Foundation. And Joe and I have been talking, and Joe's been doing a lot of research. His fingers are down to nubs from the pencil work he's been doing.
Stumps yesterday, nubs today.
Nubs today. Tomorrow it'll be... No, I'm just kidding. For those people who can't see, never mind. But see, Ash died, allegedly, after a barbell fell on his throat, crushing his windpipe, of course, during a workout just days before he was scheduled to testify. Again, much to the consternation of the website Snopes, the husband and wife team operating on behalf of, well, you know. Anyway, but just much like Rich died mysteriously, as he too was scheduled to testify against the Clinton criminal cabal. Well, are you folks seeing any connections yet? Folks, you didn't see that, but Eric came over and was rubbing me. I don't know what's going on here, but
That was funny.
But for those who are or visually challenged, in other words, don't have the video, apparently he put his splash screen up, came over, and I just felt this
He
rubbing.
rubbed his forearm.
You all right?
That was just so unexpected and funny.
Well,
Usually he comes over and adjusts the camera or a light. It looks like he was giving him moral support.
Joe's
That was
actually
good.
got tears in his eyes from laughing.
Yeah, that was funny.
But anyway, folks, look, we're looking here in this closer look segment at the death of the mysterious murder, in my view, of Seth Conrad Rich, and as it relates to the Clinton criminal cabal, we need to take a closer look at not just this, but the entirety of the bodies left in the wake of the Clinton criminal cabal. New details forthcoming in this closer look segment. Now that I've been rubbed sufficiently by Eric the Tech. I don't know. Does that out there, or does that like mark a new path to our relationship here, Eric? I mean, my goodness. You know,
it's just funny because the way you did it. Usually, like I said, you come over and adjust something.
yeah.
And so I'm watching, looking to see what he's coming to
Well,
adjust.
no,
And
I
he
had
walks around.
apparently I had
puts his arm around.
I had some sort of gunk or something on my sleeve here that was those really.
You can shine my shoes when you're done.
Oh my goodness! But anyway, again, in that closer look segment, we will be updating, of course, the details about the body count left by Clintons, and there will be more. I guarantee you, there will be more. Very good. Paul McGuire, and I'm just going to segue and pop it back to you. Paul McGuire had done a really great job in a recent article, an article published yesterday about nothing is as it appears. It's going to be on our website here after the show. But
nothing is as it appears. The truth is stranger than fiction.
Really right now, and I think everyone, it's interesting to me as we've been looking at different, Joe and I and Eric and others, and we've all been looking at various talk show hosts, looking at their format, looking at their content, looking especially their content, and we're talking about from the top talkers to the most obscure. Okay, just to see both, not just the format and presentation, but what are they talking about? And then, of course, we've been looking at the captured corporate mass media, Illuminati-controlled mass media, all 6 corporations and their offshoots. And what we've been finding is the fact that the war is against the Christians, the middle class, but we've seen this very decisive divide, and of course, they are not they're not reporting the actual facts with respect, and big surprise that are right. Oh boy, I could have told you that. But what they are doing is they are, and you said this, so it was so prescient when you said it, prescient the word of the day. Again, I'm not going to look it up, but for those in Hattiesburg, prescient has you can look it up. But what they're doing is managing public opinion, or attempting to direct public opinion.
Oh yeah, it's more than managing public opinion anymore. Managing public opinion, that was 40 to 70 years ago. Now they are creating public.
That's right.
Opinion. They're creating false truths and narratives to the point where we're so far down this rabbit hole. If the real truth of everything was staring us right in the face, I don't know if we'd even recognize it. Only by the grace of God. It's that bad. When you have a presidential candidate who is guilty of treason, except for the conviction, but even though the director of the FBI basically said as much. When you have a presidential candidate who has done more to bring this agenda of globalism into the reality of our world, when you have a nominee who was a member of one of the highest parts of our government, the head of the State Department, selling influence, selling jobs for donations to her foundation.
Yes.
When you have a nominee who has her husband, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, only to later say, yeah, I lied. For her to cover that up, for her to cover up and intimidate the victims of rape from her husband. The money that has been coming in and out of her foundation, which we've barely scratched the surface on. It's come out that she's taken $100,000 cash from, and was the director of a company that directly gave money to ISIS.
That's true.
That information has come out. I mean, some of the most horrendous crimes while she was a member of the State Department, while she was the First Lady, and on top of that being an admitted witch. And you have Donald Trump, who just wants to make America great again, if you believe the words that he says. And he's the bad guy? He's the one we need to watch out for, the authoritarian, slave driver? And people buy it? At this pace, maybe Hillary should go commit some more felonies. She'll get some more support.
She'll get the Peace Prize.
It's just crazy.
I want to see you get fired up. You look like you're about ready to get fired up.
Yeah, a little bit.
Folks, look, a very special, very, very special surprise for you tonight. Next hour, Steve Quayle and Henry Groover. How's that for a team? Very important information from Henry Groover. We haven't heard
So
from
from
him.
9 to 10,
Yes.
Steve Quayle will be joined by Henry Groover.
Yes. Will be joining us. Yes.
Now, folks, for you don't know, for those of you who don't know Henry Groover, Eric, what's that website again? Joyful Sound Ministries. Thank you. Henry Groover was in Japan.
Singular. Taiwan.
When the earthquake, right before the earthquake happened, God told him to left. He left. He walks around this globe based on based on God's will.
All right.
And he is a true man of God, and he's going to come on, and I'm anxious to hear what he has to say, because when he talks, it's important.
It's kind of like E.F. Hutton, the old E.F. Hutton commercials. When he talks, people listen. Folks, the Hagman and Hagman Report, not this next segment, but the next hour, Henry Groover, important information to share. We want to thank each and every one of you for listening, for joining us, for being part of our lives, being part of our radio show.
And when we come back, before Steve and Henry come on, we're going to continue to talk about the future of globalism.
Yes.
Specifically where it is going to take us as we are on this journey.